Welcome to Season 2 of the SOAR podcast, the place for creative entrepreneurs who want to build healthier, happier, more profitable self-employed businesses. I'm your host, Ray Hyde Cornell, business mentor at Chiron Consulting and CEO and senior copywriter at Cornell Content Marketing. Get ready to soar. Welcome to the SOAR podcast. Today we have a great family friend of mine and my financial advisor, Gabe Nelson. Gabe, thank you so much for being here. Tell us all about you and what you do and who you work with specifically, because that's a bit unique.
Well, Ray, first of all, thanks for having me on. I'm really excited. I had listened actually to a couple episodes of yours, and you're doing a fantastic job. So I have to tell you that. Yes, I have to tell you that. My name, Gabe Nelson, as you said. I own and operate a independent registered investment advisory firm, which is really kind of boring to say. So I am a financial advisor. I specialize in helping solopreneurs master their finances so that they can create the life that they want. I do that through one-on-one consultations with my clients. I have a podcast, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And other than that, I always have to tell people I'm a husband, I'm a dad. I'm a soccer freak and a retired broken Ironman. For any of you who are Ironman out there, my body has decided it's done. But that's a little bit about me.
So. Awesome. Perfect introduction. And one of the things that I love about your services and how complementary they are to what we do at Chiron is at Chiron, we help people build healthier, happier, more profitable businesses now, today, so they can start enjoying their lives now. But really what you do and what like Wes, my husband and I have been so blessed for you to help us with is really feeling secure about our future finances, and knowing that we're contributing to that and that we don't have to work until we're 95, universe willing that we get to live that long. So that I feel like is something that a lot of freelancers kind of stress over in the back of their minds is, okay, I'm working on these client projects. I think I'm good now. I've got this stable recurring retainer revenue coming in. I feel good about my pricing. And then once they get all those kind of like present survival issues solved, then comes the, oh shit, am I going to have to do this for the rest of my life moment? And you really step in to help people heal their relationship with money, heal their mindset around money, and plan for that future so that they don't have to work forever.
Yes, and it is an absolute blast. It's sitting down and helping people understand that. And the words that are coming to my mind as you're talking is so, you're a freelancer and you're going and you're kind of a kid. I mean, you're literally like trying to survive. So you're like a high school kid trying to figure out what group you're in, who's going to be your friends. Are you going to be in this group or that group or whatever? And then the next thing you know, you actually realize you can do this. And then it's time to actually start adulting a little bit. So now we got to adult our way into going, all right, I've got this business going. I really love it, but do I want to do this forever? And so what I really love to do is help solopreneurs, is what I call them. I love to help them create plans so that they can retire on their terms instead of, well, how am I going to sell this thing? Or what am I going to do? Or how am I going to get out of this? Because the one thing I remember when I first got into business, nearly 27 years ago, was it's really easy to get into business.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get out. It's hard to fail. It's easy to fail sometimes, but it's hard to get out of business, especially a one that you've built that is successful. And that's the fun of creating those plans and those retirement plans and the fun of getting all that stuff dialed in so that you can say, I've had enough. I don't really want to do this anymore. And I'm okay financially, so I can move on my own terms.
Exactly. And for so many solopreneurs, their business is them. They are their business, their expertise, their skills, their creativity, their minds. That is the business. And you really help people not just plan for that. Okay, like when you're 65, you want to be able to, retire, buy an RV, drive around the US, whatever you want to do, be the grandparent. But you also help people plan out the stepping stones to get there. buying the house, buying the car, doing this thing, working less, traveling more, whatever you really want your life to look like, because it's not all about work. Our businesses are meant to support our lives, not the other way around. So, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see solopreneurs make when you first start working with someone? What are some of the most common mistakes that you see in terms of how people are looking at their finances and their future planning?
Well, one of the big mistakes that I see that don't normally come to me, but it's a really important point, is we got to make sure that we actually have our accounts separated. Like
Mm,
literally, I mean, just kind of business 101. A lot of solopreneurs are just like, well, I'll just send you an invitation. I'll send you an invoice, and it ends up going to your personal account. So one, you got to
yeah.
get that piece figured out. The next thing you got to do is you got to make sure that you start actually planning for taxes, because the thing
Mhm.
that we always forget is we forget that we actually are going to have taxes. And not only are they taxes, they're self-employment taxes, which is twice.
Huge.
Yeah. And so but then the pieces that I start to see is solopreneurs start to get what I call stuck. The last 3 clients that I have put on that are solopreneurs, they're very successful. They're stuck. They're like, we're really busy. We really don't know what to do next with this money. It might be a whole bunch of money sitting in an account. It might have been a bunch of money that they grew from their business, and they just don't even know where to go next. And so the big thing that I find is solopreneurs get stuck because they don't know what the next step is. They're easily knowing what the next step is in their business, but they don't know what the next step is with their financial plan. So last couple of clients were that exact stage. They're like, we've got this money in our account. We really don't need it. We're working on paying off our debt. We know we need to start building for retirement, but we don't even know where to start. And so what I do is I help them understand their options. I then create the plan that says, if we start here, I can tell you, if you do this, this is what it's going to look like. So what we'll do is we'll start stepping this, meaning amount of money you put into your retirement account, money into your savings account, paying off debt, getting the house, getting the car. I even get involved with some of my clients when they start to hire people. They're like, hey, I want to hire these virtual people. What do you think I should do? How should I go about it? And so I like to just guide step by step all the way through that. But that's way more than you asked for. You asked for what is the thing that catches people up?
Yeah.
People get stuck. They don't know where to go. And so they get stuck and then they stop.
And I think it's also, I love that you mentioned taxes, because oftentimes when people start freelancing, even if they're just freelancing on the side while they're getting ready to leave their corporate job, they're not actually making enough for them to really have to worry about taxes. Oftentimes they're below that threshold where they're just not even going to have to pay much of anything at all. But then almost as soon as they start taking themselves seriously, and I see this all the time in the private mentoring clients that I work with, where they triple their income in 1 year of us working together, and then all of a sudden they're actually above that threshold by quite a bit, and now all of a sudden they have to start paying taxes, and it's like this rude awakening that everything that they wanted now also comes with a bit of a heftier price tag. And so, what would be your best recommendation or your best tip for someone who is just starting to make that transition into, oh shit, now I actually have to start paying some taxes and setting some money aside for that?
Find a CPA. Literally get yourself to a CPA fast and sit down and say, here's where my business is. Here's where it's going. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm planning for this so that I don't have the surprise come March, April of next year
Yeah.
and have to figure out where I'm going to come up with the money. I have seen people have to raid their retirement accounts just to pay the tax bill.
Yeah.
But that defeats the purpose. It doesn't make sense to do that. So get to a CPA and then find an advisor, whether it's me or somebody else. Find an advisor that understands how the finances work for a solopreneur and how the things that you can do to help reduce your tax liability, different expenses that you can do, retirement plans, things like that, that can help reduce the tax liability. But you got to start with the CPA first, in my opinion. And that's me saying, go to somebody else first, then come back. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point because oftentimes, especially when you're just starting out, if you're in those early stages, I'd say usually people who've made about 40K or less in their freelancing business, they tend to do everything themselves. They do their own bookkeeping, they do their own taxes using TurboTax or H&R Block or whatever. But getting that expert tax opinion, that CPA to help you, especially because there are so many issues with freelancing laws, especially out in California right now, that they know how to position your business, how to categorize your expenses, how to do all of these things to get you the best situation, best outcome when tax season does roll around. Yeah. So those are kind of like the most common pitfalls. What are some of the more common opportunities that you see that the solopreneurs you work with talk to you and they go, oh, I didn't even know that was a possibility. I didn't even know this was an option.
Solo 401ks. Solo 401ks, the retirement plans for solopreneurs. And I put solo 401ks first, but they're kind of at the top of the food chain when it comes to retirement planning for solopreneurs. But most don't realize they can actually do more than just their IRA. Almost every solopreneur's read about an IRA and that, hey, I can put money in. I don't really know how it works tax-wise. I just know that I can put money into this thing and there's a certain amount of money that can go in. And that's all I really know. That's what most people that I start with are at. And there's this thing called a simple IRA. It's a retirement plan you can put into your business. There's a SEP IRA. That is another type of retirement plan that allows you, if your numbers work, to do even more into that. And then there's the solo 401k. Well, just about everybody listening has heard of a 401k because they probably had a job at one time. And the beautiful thing about a solo 401k is you can take all those things that a big business has and can do, and you can put it into your business. You can salary defer if you're paying yourself a W-2. You can do what's called a profit sharing plan. If your income works, you can put $50,000, $60,000 a year away. You can do it all pre-tax if you want, or you can even design a Roth 401k inside of it. And my voice always changes. I get excited when I talk about it because it's just so fun.
Yeah.
And that's where I get creative, is I get to get creative and figure out how could we make this thing work for you and your business. But that's the piece that most solopreneurs are like, I never even thought of that. Well, that's the place that usually can really help a ton.
So oftentimes when I'm working with freelancers and those who have been consistently making money month after month, usually it's around the 5K per month mark where they start to go, okay, I'm going to actually start putting money into a savings account. What's the pro and con of putting money away into a savings account for retirement versus a SEP IRA or a solo IRA or a simple IRA or wait, no, you said 401k. See, I can't even keep them all straight in my head. What is the pros and cons of doing either of those options?
Well, the savings account is basically not going to get you a tax deduction unless it's a savings account that's on the inside of a retirement plan. But please don't, for the love of God, don't do that. Basically, the savings account is just, it's money that's really not going to grow. I mean, we're not making any money on interest rates in savings accounts. Well, a retirement plan, a SEP IRA, solo 401k, simple, whatever it might be, that money generally is going to get invested. When you work with an advisor, the advisor is going to get an understanding of what you're comfortable with risk-wise. And then that advisor is going to help you invest that money. And so then you've got the eighth wonder of the world, the power of compounding interest, which then causes the accounts to just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, we've seen in the last couple of years, the market is volatile, very volatile. We had the pandemic start and market dropped 30%, which felt like in a day. It was about a month and a half, but still it was like a day, it felt like. And then all of a sudden it jumped right back up. The thing you got to remember is investing is a long-term game, especially in your retirement accounts. And so the thing that I tell people is let's pick an allocation we're comfortable with, and then let's just keep shoveling money in over time. And frankly, for anybody that's 60 or under, or is not going to retire for 10 years or more, you hope for the market to go down. The reality is you want it to go down because then you get to buy stuff on sale because the market will go up 7 years out of every 10 years, it's going to go up. And if that's the case, You want it to go down for a really long time if you're not ready to retire, so that you can keep buying on sale is really what you should be thinking about. Mhm.
Perfect. And on that note, we're going to take a quick break to drop some resources for our listeners.
Hey, this is Ray. Ready to build a business that supports a life you love, a life you've always dreamed of? It's time to stop passively dealing with what's right in front of you and start deliberately designing your own future. That's exactly what we do in private business mentoring. You and I work together to create a completely custom to you business model that gives you everything you want and need while protecting you from stress and burnout. Ready to get started? Go to chironconsulting.us/mentoring to learn more. There you can also book a free call with me so we can start getting to know each other and see if mentoring is right for you. Plus, I love working with early stage entrepreneurs. That's why my mentoring packages are priced so low. I want you to soar. So don't worry about having to shell out thousands of dollars. Not here. Just go to chironconsulting.us/mentoring to learn more.
And we're back. So, Gabe, if someone is not quite ready, they don't feel like they're ready, maybe their income is still up and down, they're making 2,000 one month, 6,000 another month, 10,000 another month, 3,000 another month, and they're kind of all over the place. What advice would you give them to starting a retirement fund, starting to think about that future financial plan? Where do they even begin?
Well, I guess the first thing that I always try to make sure is I make sure that we actually do we have a budget or something like a budget so we can understand what's going on with their finances. Then the next step would be, do we, and I'm going to back up, not even hit to the retirement account yet, but do we have some money in savings so that if we do have an erratic income, do we have a cushion to get us through that? I'm not going to say the word right. So erraticness, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? The volatile income that goes up and down.
Volatility.
Yes, I should have just went back to volatility, but if your income is up and down and up and down and up and down, well, let's focus on getting you some savings in place first. Let's get that piece covered. Now, once we get past that and we are prepared to start doing retirement, then I think what needs to happen is either A, get a hold of an advisor, B, do some research. What type of plan could you set up that you could just get $50 a month in, $100 a month in? I'm not talking, $5,000 a month. I'm just talking, just get started and take that first step so that when you get another year down the road, all right, we'll bump it up. Go from 50 to 100 or 100 to 200 or 100 to 500, whatever works for you, but just start.
Yeah.
Just take that first step. And it's amazing how it starts to compound and starts to build. And next thing you know, 5 years have gone by and you've actually started to build some money for retirement.
And that's huge. It's the just start with anything, even if it's $20 a month, $20 a week, whatever you feel comfortable starting with. And this is something, there's kind of this weird phenomenon that happens that I see with all of my freelancers, where when they do this, when they start putting money away, even just a tiny amount each month, they start to not miss that money. They don't even notice that it's leaving their account. And then we go, okay, so you've been doing that for 3 months and you haven't felt it. Well, do you feel comfortable bumping that up to 50? How about $100 a month? And they gradually do that. And every time they increase, and I do this within my own business, and we're to the point where we're putting 4 figures a month away into a tax savings account. So quarterly estimated income taxes aren't such a big blow. And I don't feel it. I just don't feel that money leaving the business. It's something almost like this is a terrible analogy, but the frog that you put in the water, and if you start to heat up the water while he's already in the pot, he's not going to notice it. He's not going to jump out. It's like that. No, you're not going to boil and die by saving money, but it's that gradual increase as opposed to going, oh shit, I've got to start saving for my retirement. So I've got to start putting $750 a month into my retirement account and maxing this thing out as much as I possibly can. No, just start somewhere and you can gradually increase that to your comfort level. And magical thing is you're not even going to notice it as you start to increase that.
Yes. And it is a beautiful thing how you start to see that. And then you start to see it and go, wait a second. if I do more, what will that do? And if I do a little more, what will that do? And then you actually start to see the future. Oh, this is coming. Yes.
Yeah. And it makes those elusive dreams of, oh, we want to buy a house. We want to buy property and build a house. We want to start this charitable organization. We want to do all these things. It starts to make that more realistic when you can actually see the numbers associated with your actions today, but how they're going to impact your future.
Yes. And that's one of the beautiful things and this is a very shameless plug. That's a beautiful thing about working with an advisor who can help you then see that future. Do you need them? No, you don't need them. Everybody can do it themselves. But the reality is most people that I work with are either too busy, they don't trust themselves, or they just truly don't want to mess around with it. They want someone to help them get it taken care of. Mm-hmm.
Well, and speaking of shameless plugs, I do want to talk a little bit about what it's like to actually work with you, because when Wes and I were shopping for a financial advisor, we probably talked to a half dozen different people all over the country, some in Texas where we are, some on the East Coast, some on the West Coast. And everyone kind of gave us this icky, give me your money vibe. And I feel like freelancers especially are very sensitive to that because they've been in these situations where they haven't been appreciated by their, traditional W-2 employment, and they haven't been seen as that valued asset to the team. So they go out and they venture out on their own, and then they encounter similar issues with clients that just want to get one over on them, or maybe they've spent time on Fiverr or Upwork or these awful platforms. And so they're very sensitive to being taken advantage of. And that's something that I noticed, and Wes is a huge skeptic. And so he had red flags going up all over the place when we talked to these other people. And then we met with you. And these other guys that we talked to, they spent about 30, maybe 45 minutes with us if we ran over our time. You actually spent, I think it was like 2.5 hours on our first call. I think we had blocked off like an hour and a half or something, but we went way over. And Wes and I left that call feeling like, dang, he actually cares. Like, he cares about our story, our life that we're trying to build here, our goals. And you asked some questions about our life and what we wanted and what we wanted to create and why we were doing all of this that nobody else had ever asked us. So tell me about your philosophy of working with solopreneurs and why you do what you do, because I feel like you are a perfect example of what a financial advisor should be. And a lot of freelancers and solopreneurs have probably been burned a little bit by people who share your job title.
First of all, thank you. I did not know this was going to be a good promo for me, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Credit where credit is due.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. So let me make sure I have these right. So the first thing is what is the process? Like, how do I go? But really, why do I do what it is that I do? And then why do I do it for solopreneurs?
Yeah.
Am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I got to start with the why I do this for solopreneurs first. So if it's okay with you, Ray, I'm just going to work backwards into that.
Sure. Yeah, there's no particular order.
All right. So the way I see this is the story kind of goes like this. About 5 years ago in my practice, I got really bored. I built it to a certain level, like a lot of people do. You get your business to a level and you start to get bored. And I started to get bored. So I started trying to figure out things that I could do that was going to take my time. One was I would break shit so I could fix shit. Mm-hmm. So entrepreneurs do it all the time.
Yep.
So break this software, choose a different software, do this, do that, which was just a waste of time. And then I'm like, I'm going to go play golf 3 days a week. And I cannot play golf 3 days a week. I got bored halfway through the second round. So I'm like, all right, there's got to be something else. I'm like 46 years old. I'm not ready to coast. And so then I sat down and I said, well, if I'm going to do this for another 20 or more years, who do I really want to work with? Like, who do I have the most fun with and have what I would call the best relationships? Because the one thing I learned in this industry of the financial advisory industry, the investment stuff is boring. Mm-hmm. It really is, to me, boring. The fun is the relationships that I get to build and the stories I get to hear from people. And so I sat down, I listed all my clients and I listed them all by who do I have the greatest relationships with? And then what were their industries and things that they did. And my top 10 clients were all solopreneurs. They were all people who had built these businesses all by themselves. I'm like, that's where I got to go. That's where I need to just go spend the rest of my time so that one, I'm having fun. Two, I'm completely engaged so that I truly want to hear your story. So then when I know your story, I can continuously just take you by the hand and walk through life with you because A, I love everything about what you guys are doing. And I just want to continue to help you get bigger and better, or bigger, faster, stronger, to use an athletic example. And so that was the why. And the kind of the how piece and the how piece of helping solopreneurs was, I truly, just like you said, I care. I really want to understand what's going on, because the fun thing about this financial advisory world is it doesn't sound creative, but it's really creative to go through and go, all right, so you're doing this. What if we did this, this, and this? Will get us to the same goal, but we'll reduce your taxes. We'll put more money together and you'll retire 5 years earlier. Oh, I can do that? Yes, you can. And I can help you do that. That's the fun part. How I do that is, like you said, I start with an initial call. The initial call is supposed to be 15 minutes, and sometimes it goes an hour.
I may have
In
been
your
thinking of our
case,
second call or
yeah,
something. The one where
second
you and
call.
I and Wes all met together.
Yes. And that's what I was going to say. The first call is 15 minutes. And it's really a, hey, do I do what you want? Because if I don't do what you want and you don't fit what I'm looking for also, it's not going to be a good experience. And every one of you listening out there is going, oh yeah, I know those clients that I put on that they wanted one, I wanted the other, and it just was a horrible experience. Well, I don't want to do that. And so 15 minutes, get to know each other. Can I help you? Do you think you might want to work with me? Okay, then we go to the next level. And the next level is what I call a discovery meeting. And that's where I'm going to ask every stinking question I can think of, as well as the ones that are on my form. And that starts as an hour, but ours went, we went easily, probably 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And we just kept, I just kept digging and asking questions because I kept getting more and more curious. And that's the fun, is then I really understand you. I then come back, and the next meeting, the third meeting, is what I call the presentation meeting, or will be called the plan your route, as I continue to kind of tweak the name of it. But that's where I'm going to plan your route. We are literally going on a hike. We are going on a treacherous hike. Just has to do with money and finances. But I look at myself as the guide. I'm going to guide you through life. And so I'm going to create a plan. Ideally, I try to get that plan into 1 to 2 pages, so that it's a very easy, simple plan for you to digest, and actually you will do. Back in the days when I would create the 80-page financial plans, it just sits on the corner, never gets done.
Yeah, it's just intimidating.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You're not doing this every day. And so I create a plan, 1 to 2 pages, that says, here's what I think you need to do. And this is our basis for working together. Now, what you haven't heard yet is you haven't heard a close. You haven't heard anything other than at the very bottom of my financial plan, it says, this is what it's going to cost to engage me. Think about it. Whether it's sleep, go work out, go out and party with your spouse and come back and say, yes, we're good to go. There's no what I would call close the door sales pitch. It's, if you want to work with me, great. Here's what I can do. If I fit what you want, then let's go. Because then I'm going to step in with everything I have and I'm going to help you. And then the next step is basically what I call an implementation, a mutual commitment meeting. Okay, here's where we are. This is where we're going to go. And then we just start working together. And you and I and Wes have been working together now for, I think we're coming up on 2 years now.
I think so.
Maybe
At
3.
least
Yeah.
2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I kind of liken working with you to having either a really good or a really bad experience with a doctor. So sometimes you go in and you see the doctor, they're looking at their files, they barely glance up to look at you, ask you real quick about your symptoms, they write a prescription, and they're out the door. That is, in my experience, most financial advisors. But then you have the doctor who comes in, he looks at you or she looks at you, shakes your hand, and goes, okay, tell me what's going on. Okay, well, tell me how you've been sleeping. Well, what's your diet like? What's work like? Are you really stressed out? Well, how are your relationships? Do you feel like you have support? And they look at the complete picture before diagnosing you and writing you a prescription. And instead, they often make some recommendations. And then you actually feel like you've been seen and heard. And that was our experience. And so I wanted to ask you, what are some of those factors that you ask about? Because people are probably listening to this going, 2.5 hours, what on earth could they possibly be talking about for 2.5 hours? But what are some of those life factors and questions that you ask your clients that really help you put together that complete financial plan for them?
Well, one, it starts with the basics, like what's your cash flow, what's your budget, what's your investments, what's your debt. But then it's where are we going and why are we going here? What is your vision for your life? Do you, similar to your doctor thing, are you doing the things you want to do with your life right now? Are you having fun with your friends? Are you traveling with your spouse or significant other? Are you doing the things that is going to make this life worth it? We have one chance at this thing. And I completely agree with this comment you made earlier, is that we want our business to support our life rather than our life support our business. So then I start asking questions of where are we going? Why are we going? What are you really truly trying to do in this world? And then how can we help get you there? And then that's usually about the three basics that are always in my head. And then it comes back to purpose. What is the purpose of this dollar? What is the purpose of this piece of the puzzle? And that might be, like I said earlier, a client calls and says, I think I need to hire this person. Help me understand why. Help me understand the purpose of hiring this person. And this example was this gentleman wants to hire a salesperson. I'm like, can you keep up with the work that's already being done? Well, no. I said, well, you don't need a salesperson then. You need a processing person. That's who you need first. Oh, well, that just made my life easier. Yeah, that's my job. And so that basically is where I go. And then it's literally, I'm being a curious cat. Help me understand where you're going. Okay. What does that mean? Okay. What does that look like? Okay. And then I just keep going. So I'm kind of like the old style butcher. People would go to the meat market and they'd go in, I'll take that steak right there. What else? And then, okay, well, I feel like I better have some bacon. And then what else? Well, I better have that hamburger then too. What else? I guess I'll take the chicken. I mean, that's what you ever notice when you go to the meat market, they're like, what else? Yeah. What else? And that's just kind of how I look at it, so that I can really, truly understand you and where you're going.
But you're more asking the question, why? Why do you need the bacon? Why do you need the beef? Why do you need the chicken? Are you putting on a banquet for your family? Are you trying to create, like a garden party where you're going to have little appetizers, and you're making recommendations based on what the entire goal of the event is? And that event in this case is your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Gabe, this has been so incredibly valuable. Where can people check you out if they want to learn more about you and potentially work with you?
The first place to go is go to my website, GabeNelsonFinancial.com. Off of there, you're going to see a few different links that'll take you, one, to my podcast called Solopreneur Money, and where I literally go through, share people's stories, and then teach people how to master their finances and create the life they want. I have a book out. It's called The Solopreneurs Money Manifesto. You can get it on Amazon. And then the one social media place that I'm, what I would say most active would be LinkedIn. So there's a whole lot of places to find me, but if you keep it simple, go to GabeNelsonFinancial.com, and there's a Start Here button. If you click the Start Here button, it will literally show you what it's like to work with me if you so chose.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Gabe, for being here.
My pleasure, Ray. This is awesome. It's fun being on the other side. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Ray here again. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please subscribe and rate us in your favorite podcasting platform. Want to be a guest on the show or know someone who has an amazing story of entrepreneurship? Apply on our website at chironconsulting.us/podcast.